Now, but we have a lot of things to talk about, so I'll try to go directly to the point. And first of all, the story of copolyester. Where did it come from, right? Well, let me tell you.
Wait. Let me ask you something.
Uh-huh.
Were you able to start recording the session?
Yes, I'm recording it.
Okay, fantastic. Because I know that what we're going to talk about is in the minds and of many either teaching professionals, players, amateurs. Okay, so sometimes we exchange information and then it gets lost, right? But if you record it, then of course you can share it. So, okay, thank you.
I know, there's a lot of knowledge about these that I have been studying over the years. And it started as a passion, you know. For me, tennis is a passion. So eventually, tennis strings became a passion as well. So, nice. But I'll tell this story about how I find polyester and copolyester strings in my life. But first, I'm going to tell you how copolyesters and polyester started getting into the tennis market. Okay.
Okay, let me ask you a question before you start telling me the story about copolyester, which I think I'm very interested in that because I don't understand the term.
Okay,
let me ask you: is Signum Pro and Genesis are
two
these
different
two different companies?
Two different companies, two different brands.
Okay,
two
different companies.
I have to tell you. I have a confidential agreement, so I cannot discuss how or if they are even related. Okay?
Okay.
So there's a confidential agreement in which we cannot talk about Genesis and Signum Pro having anything to do. Okay? But
okay,
still, I'm going to tell you that they both have strings made in Germany. Okay?
Right.
And the quality of German-made strings is probably the best quality there is in the world. Okay, it was actually a German who started using polyester for strings. Okay, and this guy, I cannot tell you his name because his name is one of the big brands out there, you know. But still, just imagine there was this guy who was in love with tennis as we are, you know. And it was like 1988 or something. And he was already making or using polyester for making fabrics, you know, like shirts and things like these. So he thought, why don't, you know, if we have such a problem with nylon, because nylon strings, they pop so fast, you know. So he said, if polyester is so good for making fabrics, how about if we use polyester, you know, like a really thick, you know, polyester string to use it in a racket, you know? So right. This guy was a fantastic person, you know, like his idea was amazing. So he came out with the first polyester string ever, and that was 1988, okay? So just imagine, from 1988 until 2000 or 1999, when Curtin won the Roland Garros using a copolyester string, there's a huge, you know, like time that went through from the first polyester string made by this guy until one player using a copolyester string won a Grand Slam, okay? And right. Then it's really interesting because part of this history is that this guy using polyester, you know, his strings were not having great tension maintenance or tension stability, that's how they call it now. And it was not having great power, but it was more durable than nylon, okay? So right. He invented that, and then other companies started, you know, like trying to find ways to make polyester better, you know? Right. So there's always the question of why isn't this company, the company with the last name of this guy, the biggest, copolyester company in the market, because his company is not, that well known, or I mean, it's well known, but it's not the biggest company out there, or it's not even the company that won the first Grand Slam ever with a polyester string or anything. And it's because another company that started using polyesters and, like making a lot of, like testing with polyesters, decided to start giving a lot of string for free, to players. So they went with Guga Kurtin and told him, hey, I'll give you as many reels as you want for free, as long as you are using our brand and we can tell that, you're using our brand. All the other professionals, they didn't even care about copolyester. They thought it was not a good string, that it wasn't going ever to be a good string or anything. Before Guga Kurtin, they were all using natural God or multifilaments and microfilaments for playing tennis, They prefer to have more sensibility than the power and the control that you can get with copolyester strings. And then Guga Kurtin came out of nowhere and he won Roland Garros, okay? After that, everyone wanted to play with L'Occitane, And then L'Occitane became so big, even like 12 years ago, when I opened my first tennis shop in Mexico, players that were 500, 600 ATP, they were getting 12 reels a year from L'Occitane. So L'Occitane did an amazing thing, giving a lot of string away to every professional that just wanted to try it out or to use it. And L'Occitane became something that is like a monster today, like a lot of players, they want to use L'Occitane. And we're not saying that L'Occitane is actually the best quality strings in the world, The Alu Power Rough, I think it was made 15 years ago, probably even more, like 17, 18 years ago. So it's a really old string compared to the newest strings, like the Signum Pro Firestone, the one being used by Matteo Berrettini, who's number 8 in the ATP, and this string is so much more modern compared to Alu Power Rough, Remember as well, Federer is using the Alu Power Rough in the crosses, and in the main he's using natural God. So the main string that he's hitting the ball with is natural God. Still, people believe that because he's using L'Occitane and Alu Power, they go and buy Alu Power and they put the Alu Power, like full bed. But that's not what Federer is using or Djokovic is using, So, but that's an interesting thing, that when you say copolyester, that's one of the things that you started this conversation with. What is copolyester? Because this guy in 1988, he started using full polyester string, but polyester didn't have sensibility, and tension maintenance was really bad in polyester. So what happened with the companies? What did they start doing? Like L'Occitane and of course Signum Pro and now Genesis and all the other. I mean, there are more than 4 different brands out there, But what is a copolyester string? You have a base of polyester, and then they put additives. Okay, which additives are we talking about? They're confidential. If you ask me, hey, what did this exact string has? We can't tell you. It's a
okay. So basically, the copolyester simply means that it is a polyester base with some additives that are obviously their own recipe, right?
It is polys. That the CO, the co, means that is a mix between more of one of those things. Okay, so what do we mean? We mean polyamide, polyestyrene, like all those polys that are out there, that they make the plastic bags out of those and all that. And PET is also one of the materials that they're using there, which PET is also a poly as well, you know. But then all these different materials that came out of the you know, like oil, you know, when you get the oil out of the ground and they start, you know, like getting out of you know, they take all the things that they don't need to make the gasoline. Well, all those additives, all those things that are not useful for them, they're used in the market for making a lot of different things, you know. I am sure that many parts of a car are made of all these plastics that are the waste of these materials, you know. So when you combine these additives, the problem is how much of polyamide you put in the string, or how much of the polyestyrene, or any other of the 1,000 different polys that are out there. How much do they put in there? We don't know. The factory knows, but the factory never tells us, you know?
Of course.
So it's really interesting that I never, you know, like when Signum Pro came out and Luxolon came out, those springs were really expensive because I could get a reel of Ghost and Polylon for $20, and they wanted to sell me a set of Luxolon for $17 or $10 for a Signum Pro set. So I was thinking, if I can get a reel for $20, why would I want to try those springs, you know? So I never wanted to try the copolyester. I was using just polyester, and that was good for me, you know. I had durability, and that's what I was looking for. Remember, in my time when I tried to play professional tennis, the only durable material that we could get was Kevlar. That was really harsh on the arm, you know. That was not good. You didn't have any sensation at all, but I mean, people was liking it because it had durability. So when polyester came, it wasn't that harsh in the arm, and it had better durability. So I was happy with polyester. Then when copolyester came out, eventually I had the chance to try it in the racket of a friend because my strings popped and I didn't have a racket to play. So my friend lent me his racket, and he had Signum Pro polyplasma, okay? So I didn't want to try his racket, or I didn't want to try copolyester, but still, I didn't have a racket to play with. So I started playing, and I felt it amazing, you know, like I was having more power, more control. When I finished playing, I told my friend, hey, what is this string that you have here? Because I didn't like oversized rackets, and his racket wasn't oversized. And everything got in, you know, I played amazing. And I was like, what is this? And he said, I told you to try copolyesters. And I was like, why? It's so expensive. Then I fell in love with copolyesters. I have never played with anything else after that. You know, I've only played with copolyester. And just imagine, it was Signum Pro polyplasma at that time. So for 12 years now, I came from trying copolyester just to use copolyester, and then to sell copolyester both in Mexico and in the US, and eventually to be one of the owners of Genesis, you know. So I became from a player to a dealer to one of the owners of a brand, which from my point of view is really quite exquisite for the experience that I have and for the love that I have for this sport, you know.
Well, I'm very anxious to put these strings and give them out to my hard hitter juniors. And of course, I'm going to try it myself as well. I'm actually thinking of creating a questionnaire of, you know, simple questions, maybe like 5 questions. You know, how do you feel about when you first hit the ball with the string? Did you perform a shot with? Because when people say, when people say to me, especially if it's a salesman, right? If it's a salesman says, "Look, this strings feels very crisp." That's, for me, I would say, well, that's your opinion. I don't know if it's true. I will have to try it. So then you look at some of these covers, right? And sometimes they say great playability. So then I'm thinking, okay, playability, crisp feeling, the way. So in order to define playability, I'm thinking of like, okay, if I can perform a shot with those strings that normally I would not perform with any other string, then I will give that string the highest rating of playability because it's allowing me to perform a shot. It could be a drop shot that I wanted to make from, let's say, inside the baseline, or maybe I wanted to do a blocking slice, and normally a blocking slice with my Lexilon Kevlar combination is just not returning the ball as well as with Signum Pro or Genesis or some of the Genesis family strings.
Exactly.
So then I will rate those strings with higher playability. Do you agree that playability is like that?
Yes.
It's something that allows you to perform?
I think there are certain things that different strings have. And the most expensive strings have a combination of them all, okay? Which would be completely unbelievable, Like if somebody tell me when I was playing satellite tournaments, now they call them futures, but when I was playing satellite tournaments, and I was using Kevlar combined with, I think its name was Pro Blend, it had like
of course,
Kevlar and
Pro Blend.
like
That's the one I use, Right.
And then I was using that because when you're traveling to tournaments and you have to pay, that in that time it was $10 per string job, okay? Nowadays we're talking about 25. I've seen tournaments in which you pay $50 for the string job,
Of course.
As crazy as that. But in those days, if you were using only, let's say, a tournament nylon, which was tournament nylon, I think, the string from the Prince, that was one of the populars in that time.
Right, yeah, like the Prince top.
You were using only that one. The strings would pop in 40, 50 minutes, and then you would have to be restringing every 50 minutes, every hour. So you would be carrying 6 rackets and then poop, and then popping them up, like after 3 hours, you have to have 4 or 5 string jobs at $10. That was $50. In that time, that was unbelievable,
Right.
But then you would use Kevlar, the Pro Blend, and then you would have 4 or 5 hours. That was really much better than having to restring every 40 minutes, okay?
So let me ask you. Let me just ask you for a second. How would you, okay, obviously Kevlar is more durable than
any other
else.
string in the world,
Right.
Yeah? Right, I mean,
so
how
are you going to increase durability on a copolyester Genesis? Are you going to increase it by increasing the thickness of the string?
Yes, the thickness of the string would increase the durability. You have a string right there that is 16 gauge, that's 1.30. Yep. The Kevlar used to be thicker, the Kevlar used to be like 15 gauge.
Yeah. Yep.
So just imagine, that was really harsh on the arm. Now, just imagine now copolyester, you can have a durability that is not as much as Kevlar, but you will have great feeling, soft to the arm, better power, better tension stability. From my point of view, that's a winner. You're always winning with a lot of combination of that. Now, let me explain to you. When you have great playability, that means that you feel the ball better. You feel your arm good when you're hitting the ball, and then you see some balls that would go out if you're hitting it with a probe length, and then you see the ball landing in because the ball grabs better from the ball, and then you generate a little bit more spin, and then you would think, oh, that ball's going out, and boom, and then it goes in. So that's playability. Now, spin, there are strings that are specially made for spin. The first copolyester strings were round, so
Right.
they would generate better spin than nylon, but not as good spin as the newer strings now that have extrusions. Now strings have edges. Now with the edges, they grab the ball better, and then boom, you see your ball landing shorter with more spin or being a little bit more aggressive. And you know, I love when my ball looks like if it's going out and then it lands in the line, and then my opponent has to be hitting a hard shot, you know, like still run and then get the shot, and then the ball landed in the line. So he doesn't have many options, you know.
So let me ask you a question.
I like that extra spin that you get with that extrusion.
So when you talk about changing a string from being circular to now having different edges, so then that's
like
why
you have there. That one has 3 sides.
So the
that's
trionic,
a triangle. You won't find a string with so much spin like that one. That one is the maximum.
I was thinking that if I want to have the highest
grip from the ball, or what?
The highest gripping of the ball, right? If I want to have the highest gripping of the ball, I would probably choose trionic.
Yes.
Because it has the triangle. Now, it's probably difficult to string, right? You probably have to be very gentle when you're stringing it.
Not at all. Not
so
at
it's
all.
The same.
It is almost the same. Of course, if you're a stringer, if you're stringing a round string, it's so much easier just to get it into the string, right? And this one, your fingers suffer a little bit more, okay?
Yeah.
So, of course, if you're using a string that has really sharp edges, your fingers kind of suffer. Let's say you're stringing in a professional tournament and you have to string 20 rackets in a day, and you get a lot of strings that are only, you know, like the hexagonal or twisted or triangular, then your fingers will suffer a little bit. But those guys are used to that already, you know, because they string so many rackets already with a lot of strings with extrusion. Okay. Now.
Okay. So now tell me about Black Magic.
Black Magic is our #1 seller. Okay. That's the one that we sell the most. Okay. This string.
So, but I don't see any obtrusions here.
No. It's rounded, and still you will. In rounded strings, you're gonna have less spin, but more power. So players looking for power always should use a round string.
So Richard, wait a minute. I thought power was a function of the elasticity of the string.
It is.
And also the tension that like I think I was telling you in my previous conversation that let's just say that we both have the same racket. And we're both trying Black Magic.
Okay.
Both, you and me. But you like 65 pounds and I like 55
that would
pounds.
Be crazy. In the copolyester world, 65 pounds does not exist.
What do you mean? What do you mean? In the copolyester world, then you have a specific range of tension that is recommended?
Exactly. Now, let's say Pete Sampras used 70 pounds with natural gut, okay?
Right.
And then he also put those little things, strings or links, between the strings, so the strings wouldn't be moving, right?
Right.
Okay, do you see Federer grabbing his strings and getting them back after every point?
No.
we used to see that all the time in the 80s and in the 90s, right?
Right.
Now we don't see that because guess what copolyester strings make? They go back to its normal position. You know, it tends to move sometimes, okay? But they usually go back to its position, or you can get them back really easily. Not like in our times in which strings would move like crazy, and if you were hitting a lot of spin, then you would need to be fighting with all the strings after each point, right? Now with copolyester strings, they go back to its normal position. So they used 70 pounds for the strings to stick the most possible, but nowadays Federer uses from 48 to 52 pounds. Okay, and there are players that are using 30 pounds in the ATP Tour. In the ATP Tour, you will see players using 30
so basically
pounds.
you're telling me that the lower the tension, the more power I'm gonna get.
No, the more feeling. What you're telling me, it was what we believed in the old times. More tension, more control, less power. Less tension, more power, less control, okay? That was the truth with nylon strings. That was the truth with the old strings. With the newer strings, look, when I started using copolyester, I was using 60 pounds. And then somebody came from France in the future and he asked me, why are you using so much tension in your racket? You won't feel the ball. I was like, what are you talking about? You know, I was using 65 in the old days. I mean, 1998. And he said, yes, but nowadays you want to use less tension to have more feeling. And I was like, I don't believe you, but I'll try. So eventually I lowered my tension from 60 to 52. And then I felt amazing, you know, I was feeling the ball so much more, you know. How much time is the ball in contact with the strings? It's nothing, you know, it's a nanosecond.
Right, 1/30th of a second,
Exactly, but the ball is a little bit more time in those nanoseconds. It's a little bit more time in contact with the strings when you have a lower tension, okay? Nowadays, I'm using 49, and I have tried 45, and I don't see the lack of control that they say.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Is there a range recommended? Because the recommended tension usually is by the racket manufacturing.
Yes.
The racket manufacturer is telling you, listen, don't string any higher than, let's say, 65, because if you may break the racket. Well, so they're saying you have to string between 55 and 65.
The rackets in our times would say 55 to 65, remember?
Right.
Okay, nowadays, almost no one strings at 55. A lot of people strings at 52, 50, 49, 45. A lot of good players that know about.
Okay, so now the range that you're talking about is not affecting the manufacturing of rackets, correct?
No, they are now lowering the tension. If you check at the Djokovic racket, I think its tension it's from I don't know 50 to 60 or 48 to 58. The Djokovic racket, let me go for my racket. I have it right there.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Okay. Wow. I'm getting a lesson on strings.
Okay, here it says 50 to 60 in the ball bracket. 50 to 60. It doesn't say 55 to 65 like in the old days. Now it says 50 to 60.